My whole intention of studying anything is to help myself and others understand exactly what this life journey is, what it consists of, and the incredible journey of moving forwards with it, with an option and a will to understand things conclusively in this reality, and not be concerned of things that you really can't do anything about. Especially concerning about a lot of the dialogue that is that has been previously rebrought up by way of Kanye's West discompatibilities with the Jewish community, and everybody getting themselves involved in it. People like Minister Farrakhan, simply because Kanye has this dispute against the Jews. Minister Farrakhan saw that as an opportunity to inject himself in it for the sake of only pushing a book that the Nation of Islam wrote years ago, titled The Secret Relationships Between Blacks and Jews. So it's not primarily him putting forth an effort of speaking up for Mr. Kanye West. It is also a campaign to push the book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, which, I can't say I've never. What I don't like is the divisiveness that is going on right now. The Jews against the blacks, the blacks against the Hispanics, and, the Muslims against the Christians, and all of that, because as I go on, I dislike divisiveness more and more. And what's going on right now is very irritating in terms of this whole Hebrew thing that's going out, and all of the language and the rhetoric of we are the original Jews and they're the fake Jews. Well, I don't get myself involved no more in divisive language, because those are subjects that you really can't do anything about. What can you do about that? I mean, it's nothing that you can do about. So why not just focus on your reality and move forward with it and put forth an effort to make humanity a better place to exist, instead of getting on the bandwagon with either this group of people or that group of people, because that's not going to help anyone. That's not going to help anyone. I used to hear all the time saying, I think that Louis Farrakhan is a government agent. And I would ask them, why? Why would you think that? And they would say, because Louis Farrakhan is still alive. Considering everything that Louis Farrakhan talks about and has been talking about for these years, how come Farrakhan is still alive? My response always to them is it's because Minister Farrakhan is really not talking about anything. Minister Farrakhan is not saying anything that this government system would consider a threat to their power. So there's no need for assassination. Another thing that a lot of our people don't understand is that we have a whole lot of black leaders today who are walking this planet who have already been assassinated. And what is meant by this is that another way that the government assassinates black leaders or other leaders, but particularly black leaders, is to give them the lifestyle that they are constantly speaking of they want for their particular community. There's a quotation in the Quran that says, give them a lifestyle, I'm just paraphrasing, near to me. So another way that a whole lot of leaders are assassinated is the government gives them wealth. And they give them wealth to the degree that these Black leaders move out of the community and into white communities and other communities, which they would consider the environment that they're moving to, nearness to that of how their enemy is living. And so after a time when they live in these communities, they begin in time to lose the zeal, the will, and the interest of their particular community, because now they are living nearness to those who they consider their enemy, who they previously saw as their enemies. So that's another way. But I just don't like all of the divisiveness that's going around right now. There's a whole lot of information that's going around, like, we're the real Jews and they're the fake Jews. Okay, I mean, what can you actually do with that information? What can you do with that information other than just get angry about it? And if you have no means to do anything with that information, and if that information doesn't bring you humility, doesn't mean anything. I mean, that's not enlightenment. That's just information to make you angry. And when you're angry, your mind is hobbled, and it tampers with your sense of intelligence and your gift of creativity. And sometimes with some, it tampers with their incentive to produce further success for themselves. Hello, once again. This is a response video. I'm not surprised, but there were some people of the Nation of Islam who had sent me some messages, and I got a couple of phone calls from a couple of its members by way of Facebook, who I don't know in my personal life. However, that wouldn't be the first time that I would be approached by members of the Nation of Islam, because I was approached by members of the Nation of Islam for some statements that I made in reference to Louis Farrakhan. This was back in, I believe it was 1994, when I was in the field speaking. Now, my previous video, as the footage had explained before, I'm presenting this video, is simply a statement in reference to the reason why I feel that Minister Louis Farrakhan has not been assassinated. And that derives from some conversations. There's not many conversations, but that derives from a few conversations that were just within my circle, and people were wondering why Minister Louis Farrakhan has not been assassinated by the United States government. Now, simply because someone's are curious about why a particular person has not been eliminated by the government, as they did in the past within our community when it comes to people like Brother Malcolm and Dr. King. And that has always been a part of our historical accounts when it comes to what transpired in our community as we were marching forth towards what people would consider justice. But it's not a statement to encourage an assassination on Minister Louis Farrakhan. It's just a simple discussion. And in truth, I don't have to explain a damn thing to y'all. I really don't. But I'm just being courteous right now. But that's not a statement said by myself or even others. The statement that I made when I said is that Louis Farrakhan is not really talking about anything to provoke any form of assassination on him is a fact. Because if you listen to a lot of his videos, I mean, he speaks a lot from the Quran, he speaks a lot from the Bible. And see, what this government does know, they even knew this about Brother Malcolm. You know, people understand when Brother Malcolm and other people who they've come in contact with, even if it's family members, when they say Islam is a religion of peace. And yet, therefore, Brother Malcolm said, by any means necessary. Now, when you're dealing with a government system that fails to communicate with you objectively, diplomatically, this is the reason why sometimes you have to resort to violent terms in order to resolve some issues between you and that particular government. And so when he says by any means, that goes against the religion of Islam, which promotes peace. Now, what's going on in the Arab community, that is what a lot of Arabs that I've talked to when I was overseas, and they were saying that the men who resort to violence and means of self-destruction in terms of putting bodies on, bombs on their bodies, they were telling me that those men don't represent Islam. Those are the men who represent the Arab culture, who the Arab culture and the Arab world consider extremists. So that's what that is. Those guys don't are not looked upon as Muslims. Those guys are not looked upon as Muslims. So when it comes to certain statements, that people are going to make statements, so you might as well just get over that. That's never going to happen. People are not going to stop making statements. Because people have the right to express their point of views. But the whole thing is, when a man is not saying anything that the government feels as though is a threat to their power structure, for what reason would they feel the necessity to remove that person? He's not talking about anything that the government feels as though is a threat to them. This is the reason why a whole lot of information that he gives out, even if it's about the Rothschilds, he says that he was exposing them. I'm exposing the Rothschilds, and I don't really care what happens to my life. The only reason why he was allowed to even get that information is by way of the government allowing him to get that information, because exposing the Rothschilds and what they're doing to this economic system, what can you do about that? I mean, there's nothing that you can do about it. All you can do is talk about it. All you can do is educate people about how the Rothschilds and how other institutions are working against the progression of the community. But there's nothing you can do about that. So it's information that it's informative, but it's futile all at the same time. Because what can you do about it? We are living inside of a government system that does whatever the hell it wants. And we have been consistently maintained in the position to where, regardless of how angry we become, regardless of how hurt we are constantly in the position to where we can do absolutely nothing about it. You can't do anything about it, and you can't stop people from making statements about Minister Farrakhan. So just hang it up, because people are going to say whatever the hell they want. I know that I am, and the threats on my life, I'm right here in Las Vegas. It's easy. It's easy to find me. The only thing is, if you do come after me, I would suggest that you bring someone with you. Okay? Either bring someone with you or bring a group of people with you, and make certain that you thought about everything. Because I promise you, you're not going to survive. I promise you that. Now, if you see that as a threat, I don't really care. I mean, you don't have a problem putting forth any threats towards me, so fine. I mean, I'm right here in Las Vegas. I'm very easy to find. I'm not under any fraudulent name. My name is David Anthony Brayboy. That's who I am, and it's easy to find me. It's just that if you do find me, just make certain that you're respectable, because if you're not, I'm going to deal with you. Simple as that. But getting back to the subject of the video, if you're not speaking anything that the government sees as a threat, the government is not going to consider you an endangerment to their power structure. Now, when Brother Malcolm went overseas to the United Nations, and he took the civil rights problem into a human problem, he put himself in the position to where he was exposing the United States government as lying to the rest of the world, asserting that they were working in progress to resolve the race problem over here. And so also Brother Malcolm was making contact and associating himself with people and leaders who the American government felt like was their enemy. And he was over there speaking his mind. He was speaking truth. And so they felt like he was an endangerment. And you know the rest of the story. I mean, they assassinated him. And then after him, Dr. King was fine as long as he was giving harmless speeches and harmless point of views, about everyone coming together and, in the March on Washington. He wasn't a threat to the United States government until he spoke against the Vietnam War and how the American government was taking money that was put away to resolve the poverty in the country, and they took those finances and they shifted those finances towards to support the Vietnam War, and that angered him. And so when he started speaking out against the hypocrisy of the American government, the same that Brother Malcolm spoke over there in the UN, you know the rest. Those brothers were eliminated by the American government because of what they were doing. The American government perceived those brothers as a threat to their power structure. What Louis Farrakhan does, regardless of what he claims to be exposing to the world, the government does not see his sermons, his assertions, his claims, and all of those things as a threat. And that's one of the primary reasons why he is still here, along with the mercy and guidance of Allah. That's the reason why he's here. And that's it. Now, as far as the subject of being a Hebrew, I was getting messages about, well, that's our history, and we're the real Hebrews, and all of those, all of that language, and they were angry at me because I don't follow that language, and oh, you Uncle Tom, and you Coon, you do this, I've been called a whole lot of things all my life, and considering what I've just been through in terms of my times in Georgia, the person who would normally be outraged, hurt, and disturbed in people calling me out my name, that man is dead. I lynched him and left him he's dead. I left him in Georgia because I felt as though that brother was a problem. And so calling me names, threatening me, threatening my life, you're not moving me. I don't care. People talk about me all the time. I was in ministry and everybody was talking about me behind my back. And, it's no big deal. I mean, there's really nothing that I haven't been through in terms of being mocked and disrespected. That's a lot where my humility comes from. And I admit that's a lot of where my coldness comes from, because you can't care about everything people say. You can't care about how people think. That's why I'm almost 60 years old and I still don't have any high blood pressure, because I don't give a fuck. Okay? As long as I can pick up the phone and call my sons, I really don't care. I really don't care. The whole thing is, people are going to make statements. You're going to bump into people as myself who are not going to see what others see in terms of the importance of this information that is coming out in terms of Black people being the original Hebrews. Because when you utilize that language, when you go up to somebody, well, we Black people were the original Hebrews. And if you go over to the West Side or out here in Las Vegas, and if you go to any Black community, and if you stand on the corners or put a stage out and you tell the Black community that they were the original Hebrews, okay, we're the original Hebrews. That's interesting. Some are going to find that interesting, and they're going to research it. Some people are going to believe it wholeheartedly, and some people are going to not believe it. But the distribution of that information and people hearing it, now what? What is that supposed to mean to us? What are we supposed to do with this information? Even if we believe that we are the original Hebrews, now what? What do we do now? There has to be action behind all of that. Otherwise, it's futile, like I said. So, with all of this being said, like I always say, no one is trying to incite an assassination on Minister Louis Farrakhan. Okay, because like I said before, Minister Louis Farrakhan ain't really talking about nothing. He's not talking about any solutions other than unity, which will never happen. I will boldly tell you to your face that is never going to happen. Even the scripture he always quotes: if our people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and heal the land. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. Because if you look at the moral state of our community, especially with this black woman, raising our children to be just as evil, to be just as ratchet, to be just as foul as they are. The community is on a decrease morally, consistently, and willingly. And you can't deny that. So regardless of the great speeches and all of that, if that is your solution, then everything you said before is futile. You have to give people guidance. You have to wake people up. And then at the end, you have to give them a solution. What to do. What we have to do is do this. We have to come up with thus and so in order to bring about this unity. We have to do thus and so to help encourage ourselves and others to turn from this wicked culture that we help create towards Allah or God or Yahweh. Starts within. It starts within, individually. All people like Louis Farrakhan and them can do is encourage you to change for the better. But when it all boils down to, it's your conscious decision to make. Now, like I said, with all of that being said, that's how I feel about it. And if you have any problems with that, deal with it, because I'm not going to respond to any more messages, but I end this video with saying that was not a statement to incite assassination attempts towards Minister Louis Farrakhan. And if you don't believe that, I don't care. I don't care. I know what I said, and I know what I meant when I said it. And if you choose to understand it in the contrary, that's you. That's you walking around angry, because I'm not angry at all. So with that being said, I have some things that I need to attend to. So with that being said, like I always say, everybody try their hardest to stay human, and everyone have a good day. Peace.